Welcome to Catholic Views. I'm your host, Renee Kranz. On today's show, we will have Inez White here. She is a Catholic laywoman in the diocese. I can't say that today. Who has a dramatic, movie-worthy story about her life that starts with a kidnapping in her early life and ends with her just loving God and living a good life and really embracing her faith. So it's a fantastic story. She should write a book. So it's worth hanging around for. So I hope you will. First, we have Dr. Chris Burgwald here for some Biblical Bites with Dr. B.
It's a fascinating story. And the story is fascinating. So please do listen to
it. It
that.
seems unreal.
It does.
But it is real.
It's real. It's 23rd Sunday in Ordinary Time, Renee.
Yes.
And so Mark's Gospel. And the account that we hear today is where Jesus heals a deaf man by putting his finger in his ears, spitting, touching the tongue, looking up to heaven, groaning, saying, "Be opened."
There's a lot of gross things.
There's a lot of
there.
Ew. So this is for me, this is a fascinating. It's Mark 7:31 through 37. It's just 7 verses long. Mm-hmm. It's very fascinating, which we know because this is the second time we've had to record this episode for the first time ever because I got so excited the first time that I lost complete track of time.
Chris went way past the time.
I was,
This is a second do-over.
Unheard of in the history of Biblical Bites with Dr. B.
Yes.
So the first thing, the reading begins this way in Mark 7:31 to 37. Again, Jesus left the district of Tyre and went by way of Sidon to the Sea of Galilee into the district of the Decapolis. So now this is where it's not quite as exciting to do this with you because you heard it the first time.
I can pretend.
You can play dumb?
I'll play dumb. I'm good at that.
So as you know, Renee, this is when you just hear that Sunday morning in the pew, like, oh, okay. But when you look at a map of first century Palestine, like, wait a second. What's going? Because this is the analogy that one biblical scholar uses. It's like saying Jesus left Washington D.C. and went by way of New York City to Atlanta, Georgia.
Like you don't have to go north first.
Don't need to go. Don't. That's not really on the way to where you're going. So if you look again at a map, you see. So Tyre is a Gentile city where Jesus had been, and we'll come back to that in a little bit. He had been in a Gentile city of Tyre. And he went up the coast, further north up the coast to the city of Sidon. And then he goes way to I got to get my directions right for you, southeast down to the Sea of Galilee and further to the southeast, on the southeast side of the Sea of Galilee to the Decapolis. So what's going on here? Well, this is all Gentile land. Jesus came first for the Jews. He's himself Jewish, God's chosen people. But the chosen people were always meant to share God's blessings with all the peoples all the nations of the earth. And that will be fulfilled in Jesus, who is the long-awaited Messiah. Through him, the Jews will share God's blessings with all the nations of the earth. Most of Jesus' public ministry is focused on the Jews, but we get these little hints, these little anticipations of the universal dimension of his mission in accounts like Mark chapter 7. So I mentioned just before he'd been in Tyre, there's a Syrophoenician woman, her daughter is possessed, and Jesus compares it to a dog, and she's persistent, and but he goes further north, before making his way now down to the region of the Decapolis. Jesus has been in the Decapolis before.
Yeah.
Early on in Mark's Gospel, he goes and there's it's with the demoniac who's possessed by 1,000 demons or whatever, and Jesus casts them out into a herd of swine who go off the cliff, and the Gentiles in the Decapolis say, "Yeah, you can go now, bye." But now they welcome him back. So into the district of the Decapolis, and people brought to him. So it's not, "Hey, what are you doing here? Please leave. You're weird." People brought to him a deaf man who had a speech impediment and begged him to lay his hand on him. He took him off by himself away from the crowd. He put his finger into the man's ears and so on. The thing that I want to highlight, Jesus took this man off by himself away from the crowd for the healing. I think there's a little invitation to us. Most of us are Gentiles.
Oh, yeah.
Jesus wants to take us off, apart from the crowd, apart from the business of our lives, and heal us. Let him do so.
Yeah, great message. Thanks, Dr. B.
You bet.